So you sent over this article, this Motley Fool piece, and I gotta say, it really got my attention. With all this buzz about Palantir and the whole AI market exploding over the next 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years is what they're looking at.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be diving into today. We want to kind of unpack that analysis a bit, right? And see if we can really figure out what's driving Palantir's growth, what that means for us regular folks trying to understand the AI world, and maybe even some investment opportunities. But we want to do it, without drowning in too much data.
Yeah, just those key insights.
It's just the good stuff.
Exactly. And one thing that really jumped out at me, knowing kind of how you like to look at these longer-term trends in tech, is Palantir's stock. Earlier this year, it had a huge jump, and then things kind of cooled off a bit.
Right.
So it sets up this really interesting question of okay, we know AI is going to be big, but where could a company like Palantir actually be in 5 years? What are the real factors at play here?
Yeah, let's get into those numbers then. So, the article talked about their stock going up over 60% in just, 2 months?
Yeah, January and February, that's right.
Early this year.
Yeah, that's a big move.
That's a pretty big move. But then it pulled back 22%?
22% from its high in mid-February, yeah.
Okay, so what was going on there?
So the article points to a few things. First, there was this kind of overall negativity around tech stocks,
Okay.
Kind of worries about tariffs and some potential policy changes that could impact the U.S. economy.
So not specifically Palantir.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the whole tech sector was kind of taking a hit.
Right. Got it.
And on top of that, there was this growing concern about a possible U.S. recession.
Okay.
And when that happens, investors get a little more nervous. They might want to reduce their exposure to those growth stocks.
Sure.
So that definitely played a role. The article also mentioned the possibility of profit-taking.
Okay, people cashing in on that initial jump.
Yeah, exactly. Some folks probably saw those big gains and decided to lock in their profits.
Makes sense.
And then finally, there's the issue of valuation, right? So after that initial spike, some analysts might have thought that the stock was getting a little pricey.
So it wasn't just one thing, but a whole bunch of factors.
Yeah, like a perfect storm kind of thing.
Okay.
But here's the interesting part. The article actually goes on to say that this pullback might actually be a good opportunity for those investors, who are in it for the long haul.
Really? Okay, so why would they say that?
Well, because Palantir is really strongly positioned in the AI market, and that market is growing like crazy.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely hearing that everywhere, but the article actually calls them a leading provider, right?
Yeah, leading provider of AI software platforms.
Platforms, okay.
They even cite some third-party rankings that put them at number one.
Number one, huh?
Number one.
So what are we talking about here? How big is this market anyway?
Okay, so get this. This AI software platform market, right? They're predicting it'll be worth $153 billion by 2028.
Billion with a B.
With a B, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's growing, at an insane rate, almost 41%
Yeah.
every year. So if it keeps going at that pace, we could be looking at something way north of $300 billion by the end of the decade.
Wow, okay. And Palantir, are they actually seeing their revenue grow along with that?
They are, yeah, they're keeping pace. In 2024, they saw a 29% revenue increase.
Pretty solid.
But here's the cool thing. That growth actually accelerated during the year. By the last quarter of 2024, it was up to 36%.
Really? Okay, so it's not slowing down.
Not at all.
That's a good sign, right?
Yeah, that usually means there's some strong demand behind it.
The article also mentioned this remaining deal value, or RDV.
Ah, yes.
Can you explain what that is and why it matters?
Sure. Think of RDV as like a backlog of contracts that Palantir has already secured but hasn't, fully turned into revenue yet. So it's basically money in the bank just waiting to be recognized.
Gotcha. So future earnings.
Exactly, future earnings. And their RDV jumped by 40% in the last quarter of 2024. That's huge, It landed at $5.43 billion, which is almost double their entire revenue for the whole year.
Wow.
It's like a super strong indicator that their pipeline is full. They've got a lot of business lined up for the future.
And that 40% increase is even more impressive considering it was only 22% the quarter before, right?
You got it.
So things are speeding up.
Precisely.
Now, the article really seemed to emphasize Palantir's artificial intelligence platform.
Right, their AIP.
AIP, yeah. And they said that's a big reason why they're getting all these new contracts. So what is that platform all about?
Okay, so AIP is basically what allows their customers to actually use generative AI. It integrates that power into their own systems.
Okay. But can you give me a real-world example? How is someone actually using this?
Sure, they talked about Panasonic Energy North America. They're using AIP to create a maintenance assistant for their technicians. Think about it. They've got 350 technicians responsible for producing 5.5 million batteries every single day.
That's a lot of batteries.
Yeah, it's a ton. And with this AIP-powered assistant, they've seen a big drop in machine downtime, so their output has increased. Plus, it's helped them onboard new technicians much faster.
So it's about real results, not just, some fancy tech.
Absolutely. Tangible benefits.
Okay.
Palantir's management, they mentioned other examples too. AIP is boosting productivity, helping them close bigger deals with their existing customers.
Yeah, I was reading about that.
And this really lines up with the general idea that AI, at its core, is all about making businesses more productive.
Right, that's why companies would adopt it.
Exactly.
And I think there was the study you mentioned earlier by IDC about the return on investment for AI.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. IDC predicts that every dollar invested in AI-focused business solutions could actually generate $4.60 in value by 2030.
So it's not just hype, it's like a real financial incentive.
It's a big financial incentive.
So, okay, we've got Palantir as a top player in this huge AI market, and their AIP platform is clearly a winner. Now, what about the future? How big could they realistically get within this whole AI landscape?
All right, so let's look at the numbers. In 2023, IDC estimated the AI software platform market to be around $28 billion. Now, if we factor in that 41% growth rate we talked about earlier, that means the market was probably closer to $40 billion in 2024.
Okay.
Now, Palantir's 2024 revenue was $2.87 billion.
Right.
So that's just over 7% of that estimated market.
So even as a leader, they've still got a pretty small slice of the pie.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of room to grow. And here's where it gets really interesting. The article suggests that if Palantir can increase their market share to just 10% by 2030, their revenue could be over $30 billion.
10 times what they're doing now.
More than 10 times, yeah. And that's what makes their stock potentially so attractive even after that pullback.
Right, that kind of growth is what gets investors excited.
Exactly.
So to recap, Palantir may have had a little bump in the road, but they're a front runner in a market that's absolutely exploding. Their AIP platform is giving them a real edge, and they've got huge potential to grow even bigger.
Exactly. And for you, you want to understand these big trends, see where the opportunities might be. Well, this deep dive really points to Palantir being a big part of the AI story going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, this has been a really great overview, and it makes you think, what could trip them up? What are some of the challenges, the competitive pressures they might face over the next 5 years? It can't all be smooth sailing, right? And thinking more broadly, how can we use what we've learned about Palantir's strategy to understand other companies in this whole AI world? There's so much happening, it's hard to keep track.
Definitely a lot to think about.
A lot to think about. Well, thanks for breaking it all down for me. It's given me a lot to consider.
Of course. Glad we could dig into it.
All right. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.